Zani minau le taluanis para hamzus todos de mangagi pawu gini. Gista munadan man diskansa di de menti membokan taluani gini ni huntani egan. Mala pawu zata agan tatis di komite para gini ni diskansa taluani para ta continua mo resibi ginagawa i ahensya ipon departamentos dan i ramas i gubernamentung Guam para mammayla di FY2015 operations budget. Manggagit pa guguni na taluani para tayo kung ginagaw dan ninisidad i official Attorney General. Dangkulo na sa Masi, Mr. Attorney General, ni finatomo pa na taluani. Dan itaw-taw mo lang ko yung gagawin ni pon sinapot tinihafa ginagagaw mo. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. The committee is reconvening from its lunch recess from this earlier meeting this morning, in which we heard the request of the Judiciary of Guam, the third co-equal branch of this government of Guam, and the Public Defender Service Corporation. This afternoon, we return to hear the request of the Office of the Attorney General, an elected office of the people of Guam. To my immediate right is the retired Chief Justice and now serving as the Vice Speaker of the Guam Legislature, Chief Justice B.J. Cruz. To my left is Senator Tony Ada, the Minority Leader, and to his left is Senator Chris Dueñas. We want to thank them for joining the committee in its deliberations this afternoon. As a way to frame the budget request that we'll be hearing this afternoon, we have to take a look at what the budget request for the governor, which included the departments and agencies of the executive branch, and then he, and been his normal practice, pretty much then took the allocation from the total revenues of this government of Guam and then allocated the balance to be divided among the semi-autonomous agencies, elected offices, and the second and third equal branch of the government of Guam, the legislature and the judiciary. The overall revenues that the governor of Guam identified as being available for operations total, I was using the 646,181,041 number in previous budget hearings, and I want to say that while that number is correct, that is only for the overall revenues of the general fund. In addition to that, the operations of the government of Guam is supported by special funds also that have been established by law for the government of Guam. And for FY2015, the governor has estimated that $174,329,939 will be available from those special funds, which gives a total operational budget availability for the government of Guam of $820 million, $573,980. The lump sum that the governor has made available to from the special and general fund of the government of Guam totals $339,840,000, and from this lump sum allocation by the governor of Guam for the rest of the government of Guam, the legislature is expected to fund the operations of the Guam Department of Education, the Guam Commission on Educator Certification, the University of Guam, the Guam Community College, the legislature, the Office of Finance and Budget, the Unified Judiciary, the Public Defender Service Corporation, the Mayor's Council of Guam, the Office of Public Accountability, another elected office of the people of Guam, the Office of the Attorney General, as I mentioned earlier, and the Guam Visitors Bureau. The Office of Finance and Budget has prorated and estimated that the FY2015 Executive Branch request for the Office of the Attorney General, based on a pro rata basis of that allocation, will total $12,072,990, which is strictly taken from the general fund. The variance between the 2015 Executive Branch request from the current FY14 appropriation level is an increase of 2.6% or $255,000 from its current operation allocation So this is the framework. The FY2014 appropriation was $11,817,973, and the proposed allocation by the executive branch shows $12,072,990, which shows, as I mentioned earlier, an increase of $255,000. Again, we are here to receive the presentation of the budget request from the Office of the Attorney General, and at this time I'd like to recognize Mr. Leonard Rapadas, the elected Attorney General of Guam, plus his management team that's here, and we'll give you the opportunity to make this presentation. Mr. Attorney General.
Appreciate the opportunity to present our budget request. I noticed on that list that you gave that we were next to last, and I hope that we are not next to last in your consideration over this next few days. But again, thank you for the opportunity. I'm especially grateful for the rescheduling of this hearing to today. As you know, I was off island for a personal matter, and I wanted to make sure that I was present for this hearing. It seems like we were here just yesterday defending our request, but after almost 2,000 filed criminal cases later, after almost 40 criminal trials later, many of them major felonies receiving life sentences, after several government-wide procurement trainings later, and after many more contracts and MOUs reviewed later, we're back. I'm always hesitant to sit here making requests for more money. I'm acutely aware of the tight budgets with which we must all work. My staff is available to answer specific questions regarding their divisions, but allow me to present some highlights. As you know, a large percentage of our organization is based on personnel costs. The Office of Attorney General is no exception. When we submitted our budget request, we had worked out personnel costs based on DOA's process of placement of staff under the Hay calculations. Since then, a fairly large number of appeals and grievances have been filed with civil services and are in various forms and shape going through a process. While we are not making any predictions what the CSC or the courts, for that matter, will decide, we see a major increase in personnel costs due to any decision they make should they find in the employees' favors. And again, we're not predicting or making any judgments as to what the courts will do. Gone are the days of typewriters and carbon paper. Offices these days run on computers, printers, and connectivity. While the office has much of the hardware and software needed to do its work, an issue has arisen, and you saw it earlier with the presentation of the public defender in the courts. You no doubt have heard that Microsoft has ceased its support of its XP operating system. For our office, at least 50 computers are affected. Does that mean that 50 computers have crashed? No, it doesn't. We have updated our virus and software and hardware and firewall protection. But it means, however, that we are more vulnerable to viruses than we were in April when the support ended, and complete crashes could occur. We've had to hold back in recent years in upgrading our computers for more urgent needs, but this has reached a critical stage, so we do need these computers. Other items we have put on hold have been our official vehicles. We have an aging fleet. We have an absolute need for 2 new vehicles for prosecution. They have the 2001 Nissan Xterra, probably the first one that ever came off the assembly line, where its cost of constant repair exceeds the cost of a new vehicle. That's the Monomco of our fleet. We also have a 2003 Toyota Tacoma, 2005 Toyota Corolla that are reaching the end of their lifespan. And again, repair costs ever increasing for them. The varied nature of our mission includes accessing and driving on unpaved and isolated dirt roads to reach victims and witnesses. This is especially critical during trials and so forth. SUV-type vehicles with high ground clearances and sturdy suspensions are necessities. I don't want to have to pay the exorbitant towing fees to get our vehicles unstuck. And I believe that has happened in the past, and that's something that I don't want to happen to our vehicles, and I especially don't want my staff stuck in unsafe areas. Currently, the Family Division process officer is utilizing a borrowed vehicle from prosecution BWAS unit, essentially doubling or tripling its usage. They also operated in remote more general office-wide items. While we attempt to utilize our funds allotted to its fullest extent, because we try to be as strict and as tight with our expenditures, we need the carryover authority that we haven't had for many years. Every year we ask for this for our year's lapses, but we don't get it. And related to that are all the changes pertaining to personnel, especially with the implementation of HAY, the law enforcement back pay. We need to lift the restriction on transferring money into our personnel category. That's something that we again have asked for every year. Sometimes it makes it difficult to recruit and or hire qualified staff. Now with each of the divisions, first of all, I want to thank you for the additional prosecutors, investigators, secretary, and victim witness staff in last year's budget. That really helped. As soon as we could, we hired those bodies and put them to work right away. But I believe more is necessary, but I would not be coming to you without numbers. Our prosecution division still has an open total caseload of approximately 8,000 cases. That is filed open cases and uncharged cases, both misdemeanor and felonies, with an over almost 400 cases per AG workload. You can see that there's still an overworked division. This is a constant issue, and CP O'Malley can speak to his specific needs regarding that. But as with any increase with attorneys, there's a need for more investigators, legal secretaries, and other support staff. Again, CP can talk about that. Regarding investigators, the division is especially in need of an investigator. The division is especially in need of an investigator strictly dedicated to government corruption and public integrity cases. These are very important cases that we are looking to file and file more of. Currently, we have part-time investigators working these cases part-time. Part-time doesn't cut it. They need to be strictly on these sorts of cases. They need to be on it 100%. So some quick hit numbers. We average 120 criminal hearings daily. That's 600 a week. We've been averaging 3 jury trials a week. There's barely a week that goes by where there is no trial going on. See if you can talk about that. Some weeks we've had 4 or 5 going at the same time. So that is at least four attorneys out of pocket concentrating on these cases, not filing cases, and working constantly on their cases. So you've heard this before from me, so I don't want to dwell on that. Since January, we've prepared for and have conducted almost over 40 trials. And I've been insisting on tougher punishment, and we've been asking for higher sentences in plea offers. As a result, defendants are more willing to take their chances at trial. Therefore, that's why we're going to court more. Again, I don't make this increase lightly, this request lightly. Recently, Chief Berdalio reported publicly that by the end of the year, he will have an additional 100 officers on the street for a total of over 400. Now, that is a number that we haven't seen in a long time. I recall being a young prosecutor working, and we had close to 450 police officers. That was a lot back then, back in the early 90s. But now here we are, 2014, and we're barely hitting that number now. But that is a large number. And I commend the chief for making our streets safer, but more officers means more arrests, more training, because we do that for them occasionally, more investigations, more looking for witnesses, more looking for victims, more victim contact, more hearings, more trials, and I could go on and on. And speaking of victim witness advocates, we reported to you last year we were taking steps to fund our advocates locally. Now we are well on our way on doing that. It is difficult to foresee any number of things in this life, but it is easy to foresee a loss of federal funding. So we are trying to make sure that we have an active staff of victim advocates in our office working all the time. And if we lose federal funding, we lose that staff. We've reported to you the enormous load under which our advocates work. There are only 10 of them, half the number of prosecutors. I believe we are servicing our victims as best we can, but every so often we're reminded that we can do better. And we work towards a new goal, that new goal because we take the high demands of the Victims' Bill of Rights very seriously. The Child Support Division continues to provide quality service to to the parents of Guam with a caseload of 6,600 cases, helping to support 11,000 children, over 11,000 children on this island. The division collects nearly $13 million from absent parents in 2013. Of that amount, the division collected almost $700,000 in amounts owed to the government for TANF reimbursement. On average, the division receives about 6,000 calls per month, close to 300 calls per day. Court calendars are overburdened with the existing existing caseload. Caseworkers will need available, reliable systems and tools to be able to respond to these challenges, to provide excellent customer service, to safeguard personal data, and to ensure that the children of Guam continue to receive the support they need. Of course, I'm talking about the APOSI system. I'll leave the details to Deputy Nick Toff, but I do want to say that we are moving as quickly as government can move to get this system in place. Our divisions are sharing messenger clerks and process servers. We're trying to be efficient, but sometimes one division falls behind over the other. Our family division is one of those sharing divisions. They are in a need of a data entry clerk. Carol Hinkle Sanchez will speak to that and for her division. She can also talk about the double duty that she is doing running the division and the Family Violence Registry, which she herself is working on and populating the database. The Civil Division is one of those divisions you don't hear a lot about, but are hard at work in the background. Trials and hearing in court and the Supreme Court are very important duties for the division. Representing Gov Guam, reviewing contracts, MOUs, and procurements are all in a day's work for them. But one issue can be a serious problem here, and that's due process hearings. It can be a problem not only for the Office of the Attorney General, but for all of the government regulatory agencies, boards, and commissions which must hold these due process hearings. A lack of resources make it difficult for boards and commissions to meet AAL and open government law mandates. There are the expenses of hiring private lawyers to serve as hearing officers. There are technical errors that may occur in the hearing process. There are additional expenses of court reporters for the transcription of recordings of hearings. We have discussed our office, that within our office, the Office of the Attorney General should have a separate administrative hearing division. Deputy Pat Mason can speak to that proposal. And over the past several years, we've seen the need for full-time on-site assistant attorneys general to assist large agencies with the numerous tasks they must perform and to give to the agencies a quicker source of legal guidance. Examples are GPD, DRT, which now has a full-time on-site tax attorney, tax AG, but also needs a full-time on-site regulatory AG. DOC is another one that needs assistance. DPHSS is a division or is an agency that hasn't had an assistant attorney general in the past, but they have come to us many times, which seems to necessitate a need for them to have a specific assigned on-site attorney. The on-site attorneys have the benefit of needed backup of the civil AGs that are back in the office with particular expertise, and the AGs who specialize in litigation. The problem is working well with some of the other agencies, but these are funded by the agencies themselves. The downside to that is, if they run out of money, they have no lawyer. And right now, the Civil Division does not currently have sufficient staff to give these agencies full-time on-site attorneys. So and we've said it before in the past, it's catch as catch can. Whoever is available to review contracts and so forth, we will make them available as the need arises. It's kind of a first come, first serve. But overlaying this is the impending military buildup. I've read and heard the buildup will increase total Guam population by 2 to 4%. Now, does that mean an increase of a total caseload of 2 to 4%? We don't know that. We don't know if that really means that, and we can't say. The first thing I can say right now is that we need an increase now, regardless of the military buildup. And I do not want our service to the people of Guam and Gov Guam to fall further behind. Thank you for your attention, and we will all be available for specific questions
were the divisions going to make just a short presentation?
I was watching your presentation earlier with the courts, and I saw that you were going to give them some benefit for not expounding too much. So if you have, I pay attention. Well, so if you have any specific questions, there may be some specific issues that each of them may want to talk to right now, and they can go ahead and do that. But specific questions.
I guess the question I'll just start with, of course, is the increase in the budget request.
Right.
The increase in the budget request, the FY 2014 authorized level, I mentioned, was the $11.8 million, and the FY 2015 request is $19.4 million, which shows an increase of 7.4% or 61% from the current appropriation level.
Right.
And perhaps you can, when we looked at the FY 2000 authorized level, you've changed the format for the 2015 so that you have allocated your lump sum budget basically to the different divisions of the Attorney General's office.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, you had the $10.6 million under administration division, and then it was a child support division for the local percent, 34% local match of 1.3 million, which totals the 18.8 plus the 200,000 you receive for reduction in federal matching grant, federal grant. But you did not allocate how much of that 12 million was allocated to solicitors, civil, prosecution, and family. In this year's request, you broke that allocation out. So can you just explain where that additional $7 million is being allocated to with regards to those divisions,
Right.
versus this year's appropriation?
Specific answer to that, I believe Terry Squirm can answer that.
I believe much of the increase was in child support's apostasy upgrade. I believe they're in phase 4, 5. Yeah,
Okay.
that was the biggest contractual budget that they were requesting for. In addition to it was the capital outlay, which was pointed out for new vehicles and computers, in addition to some of the build-ups that we needed to meet the federal guidelines between admin and child support division. So those were the increases, aside from the personnel costs, which was affected by the hay and the law enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah, and as I said, we were getting closer to an actual system that the people of Guam can rely on. We're at stage 5 now, which maybe Nick can
Yeah.
explain.
Can you kind of, after stage 5, how many more stages before we're then able to issue an RFP, I guess, for the replacement? Because that's the ultimate goal, is that correct?
That's so out of stage 5, there's approximately 7 stages, although that number can change depending on the results of the RFP that we're in contractual talks right now, called the planning RFP. What the planning RFP does is we have the consultant come in and tell us, out of the options that we have as far as system replacement, which one fits Guam the best. Cost-benefit analysis, systems analysis, to see which program works for us, and will help out as far as keeping the cost down, because I know that we don't have the budget that some states have. Texas can go drop $100 million on a system. Guam can't do that. We know that, but we also have a smaller caseload, so we want to find something that's tailored to us. Once they come up with that list of alternatives, depending on what the selection is, there may be additional steps, IV&V, independent validation and verification step, that may not be necessary depending on if we go to our federal counterparts and they tell us, based on the selection you've made, you need this or you don't need this. So that may or may not extend the time on that. And depending on the selection as well, depending on the complexity of the selection, if it's something where it's a simple database
was the amount at the beginning of the year, and what is the amount today? Beginning of the fiscal year.
At the beginning of it's gone between, it started at just over 5 million,
Right.
and it's just under 6 million right now. The amount, a lot of that though is what we consider temporary UDC, temporary undistributed collections. A lot of that comes from tax offsets. We've had a large number of tax offsets this year because of the increased payments out. So we do not believe that increase to be something that would be permanent. We talked last year about the possibility of mistreatment bill. We're still working on that. We're getting guidance from our federal counterparts as to how to do that without losing funding to the program, because when you escheat money to the government, it's considered program income, and that detracts from the amount that they pay into the for federal reimbursement. So we're trying to do it accurately the first time so that we don't have to go back in and correct it. But we believe that a bill on that should be forthcoming within the next month or two.
Okay.
I'll be working, Senator Yamashita had been working with me on that before. It got sidelined while we were on, had some other projects that we had, Supreme Court appeal, we had the move between the offices, but it's now the highest priority on our, second highest priority. I'll put the APOSI system as our highest priority, but that's the second highest priority that we have to deal with in the upcoming year.
Okay. Terry, can we go ahead and get what was allocated for your current fiscal year budget? What was allocated for the solicitor, civil, prosecution, and family divisions? Can you give us those numbers?
I can give you later. We have
Yes.
an internal tracking that we keep of all the divisions requests for accountability and tracking purposes.
Yeah,
So, okay,
we're requesting it later, not right now.
okay.
Okay. All right. You touched, Mr. Attorney General, on the fact that the legislature in this fiscal year's budget, provided the prosecution division with 2 additional assistant attorney generals, the 2 paralegals, 2 legislative secretary, 1 investigator, and you mentioned that you have recruited and filled those positions.
Good afternoon, Senator. Yes, we filled all those positions. We're still, unfortunately, last week I lost 2 of my attorneys. One just because she's moving off island with her husband who's military, and one who retired for medical reasons. So I'm trying to refill those positions now. But yeah, all those positions were filled.
Were filled in this fiscal year.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The legislature also funded 2 victim advocates. Have those provisions been filled as well?
Yeah, we've filled one, and one we're in the process of bringing another one. Should be in hopefully sometime later this month. I believe it's June 25th is the approximate start date.
Okay.
And the problem is it just takes a while, especially if I can speak carefully. We're very selective with our victim advocates because of the nature of the position, so it takes a while to fill those positions, and that's why we're very careful about who we put into those positions.
Now, the filling of the attorney positions within the AG's office, has been a recurrent issue. There has been some discussion in the past about impediments that may exist in either administrative rules, regulations, or laws that could streamline the process a little bit more or facilitate the hiring process a little bit more. Have you reviewed that or experienced anything within the process that may require some legislative action to fix the process or streamline the process?
The process has sped up quite a bit because we are now in charge of our own HR. Mrs. Score and her team are doing a great job of moving these things along. We still run into delays getting all the paperwork in, all the requirements, and I don't oppose those because we want to make sure drug testing is good, and I take a long time, especially with my attorneys, and vetting, making sure that we're bringing in good people. And the only, I don't want to call it totally
yell and they just
opposed.
can't practice.
They just can't.
They
Well, I
just-
don't
they
want
just
them. They
don't.
can't practice for work.
No,
They
no,
can't
no,
work
I
for me. I
understand.
don't
They
want
can't
them.
work for you. Put it that way.
No offense, but I don't need them.
Can't find it. That fifth year doesn't mean they become incompetent lawyers.
Sure.
We just wish that well, one of our dreams is going back to the old system. As long as they're in good standing in another jurisdiction, have passed the bar, as long as they're working in the AG's office or any government agency, we don't want to discriminate. Then they can and should practice in the office. We like Mr. O'Malley said, we vet these staff as well as we can.
Ironically, on that issue, I know the public defender just lost a very good seasoned attorney for that reason, and the APD lost an attorney for that reason.
The public law passed by this body, 32-34, made amendments to more efficiently implement the Criminal Injuries Compensation Commission due to the fact that there was just a lack of ability to fill that board. And the Office of the Attorney General, of course, is in charge of administrating this. The Attorney General was given leeway and authority and power to disperse awards to that. Can you just briefly give us the status of that, the actions that have been taken by the Attorney General's office with regards to dispersing any of the monies that were in that fund for the purposes that they were created?
Right. One of the first things that we did was to make sure that that fund was funded, and of course you know that we found that it was not, so we made specific requests of the administration to make sure it was funded, and it was, and so it's constantly consistently being funded now through the system. What we did was to make sure that we needed to, with anything and everything, especially dealing with money, we need accountability and procedures. So one of the things that we had to do was look for and dig up the old procedures, because our office hadn't been doing that. We hadn't been in that role for a number of years, and we found that we had to recreate the procedures and forms and so forth. So we spent a good amount of time doing that. We've also been pushing the administration to get qualified people on board to be on the commission. Of course, I believe we're up to
Is it 3?
we have the 3 now, so we have a quorum now.
Right.
So what we need to do is make sure that quorum meets and get the procedures going to get this money dispersed to the victims that need it. And again, of course, this is not a money for everything sort of thing. It is a compensation fund that covers areas that are not covered by restitution, because restitution will be ordered by the court and hopefully paid by the court. But compensation, the Criminal Injuries Compensation Fund will compensate for matters that aren't covered by restitution. So those that's where we're at now. I'm not sure if there are any meetings set at this point.
Actually, what we're going to also have to do, and we'll be bringing it before you, is we're going to have to take it through the AAA process.
Right.
The AG was out by and we did an internal info and guidance on whether or not we needed to AAA it, and we found that just to be safe, we needed to. So we will be bringing that
So we're closer and closer.
Okay. Thank you very much. We just need to work a little faster on that.
Yes.
And I understand that, part of it, of course, has been the fact that there hasn't been a full complement, but the Attorney General was given the authority to make that, and I just didn't see any outreach on that. I didn't see any announcements. I didn't see public service announcements that the Attorney General was, now in charge of the Compensation Commission. Victims who may have expenses that may be covered by
Right.
the commission can now come to the Attorney General's office, can file claims or whatever. Again, because we didn't need the full commission and we didn't need a quorum
Right.
to make disbursements, and so we'd like to see greater urgency in that respect, even without the full complement of the commission.
Well, like I said, Chairman, it was the need for the procedures, and we essentially had to recreate the procedure out of know we have the authority, but we needed to make sure we had the procedure, and we need to make sure that we had the accountability to make sure that the money was spent properly. But we weren't. I'm sorry, we weren't able to make sure that there was a paper trail. We want to make sure that there is a paper trail. Make sure that the money went to the person and there was accountability.
Understood. Okay. Chief Justice Cruz?
I know that the chairman and you guys have the numbers, but I'm sure the listening audience is like going from 11 to 18. Surely the computer system isn't going to be the full 7 million. So for the edification of those of us that don't have the detailed budget, and especially the listening audience, what's the breakdown of that, and how does that translate into how many additional attorneys are going to be hired, or how many personnel will be coming on as a result of this increased budget request?
Well, the overall increase. I mean, each division has put in their specific requests for specific attorneys, and when we kind of look at each of the individual salary and benefits for each attorney, civil is looking at how many, Pat? Looking at an increase of
for the reasons you stated, we would like to have 4 new attorneys so we can actually, especially during the build-up, do what was done in the past: assign an attorney to GPD, assign an attorney to DOC, assign an attorney to public health, and what's the third? There's another one. Anyway, these agencies, I know, DRT, because they do not have a regular, they have a tax attorney, no regulatory attorney. Each one of those 4 agencies previously had an attorney assigned to it, and they don't now. And I've added public health simply because of the role that we've had with them has increased incredibly. And so, and that's a much better system, is to have the attorney working for the AG's office with all our backup, all our assistants, but actually on site for at least 4 days of the week, so that they can answer questions, do things that needed to be done, call in, to get quick answers, find out the status of things. It always works better for these big agencies to have attorneys on site. Now, I've done Rev and Tax myself. I was the regulatory attorney there for a couple of years, and I worked with Steve Cohen, who was the tax attorney. And now there is no regulatory attorney, and so a lot doesn't get done that needs to be done. I know I held hearings for people who got their licenses revoked because they wouldn't take the breath test. So first they assigned it just to a staff member who's not an attorney, and then it just didn't work because the other side would come into with a lawyer, and how are you going to conduct those hearings as a hearing officer when you're just a layperson against a lawyer who handles these criminal things? And so those 4 things are things that we really need. Now, another thing is this hearing officer situation. This is really dire. There are so many agencies and commissions that have to do due process hearings, and there are so many times that technical things screw them up. These are just lay people, in essence, volunteering to do this work, for a commission or a board, and they really don't get anything for it except to contribute to the community. So they really need guidance. And we don't like having to go outside for hearing officers because we have to pay them whatever the going rate is. We'd like to have one in-house who's separate, can help advise on the open government law, can help advise on the AAL, and so that things are done technically right, number 1, and number 2, there's an independent hearing officer. We don't get the lawyers coming and saying, well, wait a minute, the AG's office can't present the case and then have another lawyer in their office hear it. They say that's a conflict of interest, and we don't want to have to litigate every case to try and convince a judge that, that's not a conflict. So we would like to have one attorney set aside so he doesn't deal with the other lawyers on any of these matters who can be a hearing officer. We don't have to hire private people to be hearing officers. So those are the are the main areas of concern for me. There's one more thing I would like to mention that's a little different, is the notary. We do the notaries, we do notary applications, we prepare tests, we give tests, we handle complaints about notaries, and when somebody comes in and wants to see the authority for a commission, we might go back to the 70s to provide them with notice. So we need to store all those journals from way back. And also we need a new computer. It's so old that they don't support the operating system it has anymore. But we charge these fees and we have money. We have money, but it's subject to appropriation. And because it's subject to appropriation, we never get to spend the money for the things we need. And what we'd like to do, the last figure I saw was $20,000 in the account, just from fees coming in from people taking the test. I would like to have those available for the unit to like get a new computer and to pay for, climate controlled storage for these boxes, so many, I don't know, boxes of journals going way back, because we have to go back and find those and copy them, and it happens frequently. And when you store it like a DeWitt, you have to pay every time you go in to get, one to look at, to copy, to prove, was this person a notary back then, was the notarization proper. So those are the three things that, as far as my division goes, that I'm looking at when I prepare the budget. Those are additional things.
And that's just the civil division, and most of all, the increase has to do with the vacancies. We budgeted to fill our vacancies. That's why the increase is quite a bit, and I think.
And if we can just stay with civil, and
we can.
I purposely asked the question to go down so that
Right.
we can get it,
Okay.
because I think it's imperative that we hear this kind of testimony.
Right.
And I know last week, Chairman Nicholas conducted hearings on revenue and taxation and asked the question, what happened to the 3 cases that Rev-and-Tax said that they were going to be submitting for tax fraud, and what happened to that case? So a lot of this is going to try to address making sure that everybody pays and there's money in the coffers, and people knowing that they can escape their taxes only means that you're shorted, that we're all shorted, the general fund shorted. So it's imperative that we get that kind of testimony and the kinds of things that are necessary for moving forward on other things the civil division does, contracts, the QC that was in the paper yesterday, it's just, these kinds of things don't, no offense, don't speak well to the office. And when you're asking for a $7 million increase, I'm asking you to take the time. I know it looks like I'm falling asleep, but you know that from my years on the bench, I could quote back to you, even with my eyes closed, what you may have said. So just state for the record what it is that you need this additional $7.5 million, because just hearing a 61 or 71% increase makes everybody's eyes glaze over. But you need to justify each one of these increases, and the problems that we're having procurement and losing and public health and social services having somebody up there because of the amount that we're losing with some of the contracts that are up there that are 4 years old now, that are still in emergency procurement because for some reason no one can write the contract correctly. I have no idea what's going on, and you really need to start addressing that. So, but how about Rev-and-Tax? What's happening there, and would it be cost effective to have somebody up there and explain why that would be necessary? Because I know that there's other kinds of things. I got an email that the ABC board is not fulfilling its responsibility, and there are bars that are up. One woman said she was up to take her kids to the bus stop at 6 o'clock in the morning, and people were were coming out of a bar in Tumon. That's even later than the 4 o'clock that I got killed for, taking it back to 2 o'clock. But now that I've taken it back to 2 o'clock, they're actually staying open till 6. So,
Mr. Vice Speaker, I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head. We need somebody up there, sitting there, talking to them, making recommendations to them, and then helping the regulatory agency so they don't get sluggish and aren't doing their regulatory duties. I mean, I can say that from experience. And then when a hearing comes up, somebody who's available to make sure they handle the hearing and they handle it properly. I just mentioned those 4 agencies because I think they're critical.
well, there is another agency, and I don't know whether or not it really should be under you guys, the Attorney General's office, or whether it should be separate. But last week, the Civil Service announced that they would be conducting hearings in 2016. Talk about a need for a administrative law judge or hearing officer to assist in trying to reduce that backlog. I mean, if any of those employees succeed in their appeal, the cost would be greater than what we ended up when we finally had to pay off the Allen Hauser.
Well, maybe I can speak to that briefly. We had a meeting last week with the Civil Service Commission on that very issue, and we are currently working with them. Although the law allows for them to hire an ALJ, there's possibly a need, and we discussed it amongst ourselves and with the chairman himself, the director, that there may be a need for some tweaking of the law to allow for certain things. And they told us that they wanted the ALJ to have some powers that are not enumerated in that particular law. So we are currently working with them. We understand the issue, and we are working with them as quickly as we can on that. They just came to us last week on that, so we intend to.
No, I know, because I've spoken to them too, but I mean, it's necessary that we address that, because these things all will eventually come back and cost us money.
Understand.
People sitting out for 4 years and then getting 4 years of salary at $80,000.
Understand.
We would have been better off had we had somebody and resolved it in the first 8 months of the appeal, rather than 30-some months or 40 months.
Well, we're working to help them with that issue.
Okay,
If I
and
could
with
add
the,
to that.
okay,
At the risk of getting myself in trouble again, you know, I'm gonna speak very bluntly. I know I always do. Thank you. You know, this government is grossly understaffed. I'm not just talking about our office, I'm talking about the entire government. You go to Rev and Tax and you stand in the long lines, and those people behind there are working, I mean, like slaves back there. I'm sorry. You go to any place in the government agencies, and those people are working very hard. I get personally insulted when I see in the paper government employees being badmouthed, you know, for being lazy or what have you. We are grossly understaffed. That's a big part of our budget increase. We need more people.
Well, what's the $7 million going to fix?
I
That's the question.
personally, for prosecution, I need 5 more attorneys. I
Is
don't
it
know.
in the $7 million?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, sir. I don't know if the number is skipped over you. My attorneys handle 120 hearings every day. We are in business 6 days of the week. We work Saturday or Sunday, depending on whether it's a 3-day weekend. That's 600 hearings plus every week. And that's, this past week, I covered 3 hearings. Each hearing for that extradition of the 18-year-old boy from Michigan. Each hearing took me 2 hours. I took it because it's very complex. So, you know, I was sitting there for 2 hours for that hearing. You know, but and in the meantime, I'm sitting there listening to how so many people don't have driver's license and they're in there for a DUI. That goes back to the regulatory agencies. They don't have people to uphold the regulatory functions. You know, you talked on that briefly. My childhood neighbor, Ron Karangdang, for public health is like the only inspector. And he's about to collapse from overwork. You know, we need to fund, and I'll support Mr. Mason on this, you know, we need people in these regulatory agencies to
to step up. I mean, they're there. We have to fill these positions. I need 5 more attorneys to carry this caseload. I need at least 2 more investigators and 2 more legal secretaries.
How long does the average hearing last?
Depends on the hearing.
Yeah, that's
It just depends on the hearing.
my
Is it
hearing.
what was 2 hours?
My hearing. What took 2 hours?
Where you
I
spent
had to-
hours waiting and the
had to wait
hearing
for
took
my
5
turn.
minutes?
I had to wait for my turn. That's what it was, and Judge Cruz understands how that is, which is fine, which is good time because then I observe my new attorneys who are handling other hearings, and seeing how they're performing because we do that. We keep track of what our attorneys are doing, but we go to court. They're there from 9 o'clock in the morning to at least noon. They go back there usually 1 or 1:30, and they're there until almost 5 o'clock. And we have 7 judges. And
So,
I
so
was
can you give us an idea of just what's the average hearing? I mean, I know some take 5, some take 2 hours, but the actual time of the hearing, from the time you get called, you go before the judge for the hearing itself. What's the average time
I would say
and the end of that with this 165 hearings a day per attorney?
I would guess about between 5 and 10 minutes.
Why
per
don't
hearing.
we not guess? Why don't we give those time to us?
I can work on that. I can
Okay.
give that to you.
That would help this committee in terms of evaluating the efficiency.
Well, what may end up happening is we may have to break it out in terms of the type of hearing.
Sure, that would be
Arraignments,
helpful as well.
trial settings,
Right.
Suppression hearings.
Yes.
I've had suppression hearings that lasted days,
Okay.
and so it just depends. So we will provide
But
that.
it'll help,
Well,
Yeah. Just but
my
briefly-
question was not adversarial.
No.
Why
It
not?
was a
I know.
softball lob, expecting someone to hit it out of the park, for Christ's sake.
I apologize.
The prosecutors were
I
used to
could say-
fastballs hitting us.
Mr. Vice Speaker, I can say we will save the government money and we will create more income if we have 2 people, 2 lawyers at Rev and Tax. I firmly believe that. And
You already have
that
one there,
applies to the other
courtesy of the legislature.
Pardon me?
You already have one there,
Right.
courtesy of the legislature.
Yes,
Right.
and we truly appreciate that.
Another
Truly.
thank
It's
you.
hard to
Wow.
find. Tax lawyers are very hard to find. I mean, they're
But
rare.
just so you know, also is that 7 million, 5 million is taken up by the vacancies. So maybe we can go. If you're done with Pat, then maybe we can move on to Nick.
Yeah, I'm rather novel among the crowd as far as I don't think that I need more personnel in my division. I
Okay,
need
you can stop
equipment and operations. If I have the right systems and operations in place, you can drop another 1,000 cases on us and we can operate just fine. But our systems are our lifeblood. One of the things I'm requesting is document management software. The reason for that is I have closed case files that take up an inordinate amount of space in the office. These are files that stretch back to the early 90s, and if I can scan them, get them on a server, get them out of the office, shred them, I accomplish 3 things. 1, I free up a lot of space that I can put people into without having to expand office operations. 2, I can increase the efficiency of my workers. They don't have to dig through box after box after box to find a file, taking 2 hours what they could do in 5 seconds just with a simple key search. 3, security. With all these files, a lot of this has social security numbers and other vitally important information that needs to be protected. I need to have secure rooms. I need G4S to come in and install systems to protect all these boxes. And if I can do away with that, that takes care of a cost on that end as well. And with the question earlier about the undistributed funds, about 4 or 5 million of that 6 million amount came from the pre-1996 problems we had where we had weather, typhoons, and things that destroyed old records so that we were unable to reconciliate our funds with the bank funds. We have all these amounts that we have unidentified recipients for. If I can scan all these cases, get them backed up, and basically weatherproof the systems, typhoon-proof it, act of God proof this system, so that we don't have situations like this again.
what we actually did was just did a cost-benefit analysis between buying a document management system and renting one. And so we find that we can rent every quarter, we can rent a high-speed scanner. They come in, they install it, we rent it, we scan everything, we put it through our document management system. We have a record now, and we actually shred those documents themselves. And so that has been more cost-effective for us. Now, I don't know with the volume, but you might be able to get away with a lower cost because of the higher volume that you do.
I believe that's the plan, is to, because we have the high volume right now, to deal with that backlog first, and then
Right.
we'd be able to scale it down because of the amount of closures per year would be a lot smaller than the
But I'm
existing
saying
caseload.
rent versus buy.
Right.
$20,000 can, get you rental for, 4 years almost. So that's just the some of the experiences we've had in trying to manage our own document challenges.
Yeah, rental might be possible, and I appreciate the possible alternative, and we appreciate the suggestion. But also recall that sometimes, many times, Nick's cases last for 18 years. He has to have that file available for 18 years until.
Right, you put you
Right.
down, then you dump it into your system,
Right.
into your server,
Right.
and it's there. So you keep the server. The scanner goes back to the company you rented it from.
Yeah. So appreciate that.
So, okay.
Maybe
Carol, I
we've
guess
heard from
we've gone.
Chief Prosecutor quite a bit. Maybe let's shift over to Carol.
Good afternoon, Senators. Of the $5 million increase, currently I have the smallest team in the office. My divisions, I think about 9. I have 5 attorneys. That includes myself, and then I have 4 support staff. That's under me, which includes 2 legal secretaries, a process officer, and a legal clerk. And currently, our current budget for just the warm bodies is $730,000. We asked for an increase of attorneys because we do want to provide, specific attorneys for like child protective services. There's a high volume of cases coming in on that end, and those are pretty much our complex cases. We also have the higher degree, juveniles committing higher degree offenses, the CSC rape cases, a lot of burglary cases, and so these are the higher and more severe cases, and so we'd like to put some more attorneys into those areas because at this time, Basil mentioned lots of trials. The juvenile world's also facing a lot of trials. A lot of things are going through the court system and not being settled. We're actually going to fact-finding on a lot of things, including our child protective service cases where, we actually move in to terminate parental rights. Those are really big and complex matters, and they are very time-consuming, and they do take a lot of time because it's lots of years in the system before we move into that direction. And so it does take a lot of time and a lot of the attorneys I do have do invest a lot of their time. They're in court at the most part 4 days a week, for sure. Those are our scheduled dates. We're in court Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, and sometimes Mondays, which makes it 5 days. We're before 3 different judges. So you can see already that 3 of my attorneys will be out of the office in court, and that doesn't include our preliminary hearings.
And what is your allocation of the $7 million increase?
The allocation, the increase of the $7 million is
How much did that increase your division budget?
the increase for my division is 597. The vacancy positions will constitute just 597,000, a little bit over, maybe 598,000, just to round it off. As he mentioned, we are in dire need of a data entry clerk. My system had crashed about 7 years ago. Anytime a senator's asked me for statistics or data, I do it manually. I go through my logbook records. My clerk does a manual input, and she tries to input into the system what she can. Right now my team multitasks, so you have some of them doing, supporting the other staff just so we can get the work done. They prioritize, and so that's one of the critical areas is the data entry clerk to input and get our system up and running. Also a messenger clerk. We oftentimes borrow off of Basil's team, his messenger clerk. We have a process officer, which really helps because I think that's one of the priorities that I was given as I mentioned, we are in so many contested matters. My attorneys left to right got motions. We handle the same cases, the co-actors of the adult world in the CSC cases and burglary cases that are still juveniles. We have them in our system, and they do fight all the way to the T until we can work some settlement out or until it goes to fact finding. And basically also, I think one important thing they mentioned was the capital outlay. Currently, our floor is the 9th floor, and on the 9th floor is administrative, child support, and juvenile. Child support and juvenile records are confidential records, and currently, if you've seen our office, there isn't any walls that block off each of the divisions. And so that's something that I know our office has been trying to work on, but because of funding and also the lack of the materials and construction to get it done, it still remains open. And so I know that child support would like the walls up, and we're right in between child support and admin, so we also would like the walls up. We're right there.
But those were funded out of the build-up cost, I thought.
Not the later build. Yeah, that wasn't.
So that wasn't considered in the original planning?
Yeah, that wasn't part of the original, right, when we entered with, yeah.
Okay.
And so that's to me critical because of the need to preserve confidentiality. We are walking, we are in one
Is that the
floor.
$125,000 in additional build-up cost in your budget?
Yes, it's in the budget digest.
By the way, gentlemen, when we started out receiving all of the budgets from the executive branch and departments and agencies, the committee sent out a survey of those that wanted hard copies and those that wanted electronic copies. And if you don't, you should have received the electronic copies for these series.
Yes,
So I apologize, we don't have the hard copies today, but the electronic copies were provided to all the senators. Okay, thank you very much.
Senator, you're correct. It is about 125,000 that was requested in the budget. That's just really important. We do want to preserve confidentiality. I know the management has been really
Okay, thank you.
trying.
We got
The
it.
other thing is also the doors, the security
We got it.
system on the doors, our central doors, because
We got
right
it.
now, okay, thanks. Thank you,
You're
Senator.
just, well, no,
Another
you don't
thank
have
you.
it. We got what your request is, and you're subtracting from the Attorney General's opening remarks.
I'm just emphasizing the need. And I wanted to just chime in with Pat, on the regulatory side of it.
Okay.
We just had that recent
More.
incident with the children being able to purchase alcohol
Uh-huh.
in the stores, and I know it's in the media. And we also addressed our concerns, but that's really why it's really critical to have people assigned to the regulatory side, because that is a regulatory function of DRT under their ABC division. And so, although we would come into play as well, because there are criminal matters that will occur as a result of these things, it does start off at the regulatory side of it. And it would be nice if we had our inspectors going out and being able to monitor and actually even looking clearly into the laws, because a lot of these stores that are so close in range to schools within the 500 feet range, and I think the law prohibits those stores to be selling. So it's really good to have an attorney assigned to DRT that will do the regulatory functions, and so I do support Pat on that one.
Anybody else you want to support?
Well, I support all of them, but myself, my team, no.
All right.
But that's pretty much it, Senator. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vice Speaker. Senator Tonieta? Senator Dueñas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've learned over the years that regardless of the subject matter of the budget or otherwise, it becomes an oversight hearing. But I appreciate the presentation. So I'll dispense, because I think we've gone over in terms of the looks like slight differences between your request and the administration's request. So I'll go into an operational issue that I think has been affecting the budget because of the institutions that you basically primarily serve in terms of pretrial and that kind of activity. As you know, there's a lot of high-profile attention now on Department of Corrections. Department of Youth Affairs, I think, has similar problems. Our good Chief Justice has been quite on top of the issue of the courts. So I guess maybe from your perspective, General, is there any possibilities in terms of case management and those that are currently in custody at DOC and DYA that could be expedited in terms of the process of managing population cases and the like, in terms of is there holdups on your end, as well as we've of course, ask the courts as well to be held accountable to their timelines as well on pretrial and the like.
Well, unashamedly, we are probably the agency that causes these buildups in the court. I mean, when people come to the system and we believe that they deserve to be locked up pending trial and after trial and conviction need to stay in for a while, we will do that. We do want to work with the legislature and the administration and with any other agency, both local and federal, on alleviating any buildups, as you call it, within the Department of Corrections. But it's not a simple one-size-fits-all solution. It is a solution that requires input from all parties, and to include the federal government. And the Vice Speaker is well aware, and I'm well aware of the federal government's reticence in wanting to assist us when it comes to our off-island guests. So we intend to work with as many agencies as we can to do that, but at the same time we have to also remember our mission to keep the people of Guam safe.
Sure.
Whether they are from off-island or not, or they're from our beloved shores. So,
Sure.
And we're happy to take any suggestions from
Yeah,
this
I
body.
completely agree with you, General. I guess maybe it's just because I've worked closely with Carol and others
Right.
before, and I've seen the system. If there's good coordination between the courts, the institutions which are responsible for care and custody, and that if there's that ongoing dialogue between all the parties, certainly only the low risk and those under either pretrial or remand under violations of court order and the like. I was just trying to ascertain your relationship and the constant dialogue between all of the entities to ensure that there's a smooth process so that we can alleviate what we can.
Right.
Certainly not compromising safety, and I'm glad you're unashamed about that.
I'm never closed to constructive talks regarding that.
Thank you.
I think someone wants to chime in.
I just wanted to mention, well, as you mentioned, you work with us, and I think one of the biggest problems is the fact that we do need a bigger facility or even a transitional facility as far as the Department of Youth Affairs is concerned. Because you mentioned we do have those that come in that aren't those long-term, that don't need that long-term placement, that come in on violations or come in on truancy issues or whatnot, and are placed there in the main facility where they need a separate facility. But we do work with DYA closely to ensure that, and we do mention to them, if you have a list of those that are close to completion, that have good behavior, that have no infractions, send it our way or send it to the court, because the court does ask when this issue pops up, it becomes urgent, or there's a crisis of overpopulation. They do ask us, which ones can we let out? Of course, as he mentioned, as the government's position, we really don't want to let them out, because to begin with, that was the deal we gave them to serve. And so I always tell them, the best person to make that move is actually the defense attorneys. It should be thrown to their hands because those are their clients. Our interest is the safety of the public, accountability, and we want to hold these offenders accountable for their actions. But we do see the issue of overpopulation, and we do try to work with them, but it should be a move by their attorneys. And so, that's something DYA, we all discussed. I believe DYA current director was supposed to meet with the defense bar and speak to them, because sometimes they have kids complaining, we haven't gone to court yet, we've been in here for so long, and basically it's a matter of the hearing got bumped because there's a trial or whatnot, and it got reset for another 2 weeks or a week, and so then now they haven't met their attorney, so they're stuck there until that next hearing. And so it's something that they need to also actively tell these kids, have your parents contact your attorney and see if they can file some motion or some sort, because it doesn't look good for the government to file a motion to release.
Sure.
I mean, we're going to get nailed by the public again, because we're releasing criminals that should be held accountable for their actions, and so
But
we
you're
don't want
willing to release them.
if we do, correct, and they have attorneys appointed already who can file those proper motions.
Right.
And it would
who,
be
who supervises those attorneys?
it'll be through either public defenders, alternate public defenders, or the a private attorney panel.
And my point is, and the Chief Justice has pointed this out before, being detained, there are pretrial situations where whoever's end holds up, where I've seen it, especially with juveniles, where young people have actually served what the equivalent of their sentence by the time that they've been held on pretrial. So, I mean, that can't be a justice either. I mean, we're keeping the public safe, but we're also saying, you know, when justice is meted out, it's like, okay, you got 90 days, that should be 90 days, not 90 days plus another 90 days I already spent in here. So that's just my point in terms of just looking for communication and that efficiency, because, you know, that interrelates to all of the systems being held accountable.
If I could, I'll keep it brief, Mr. Chair. To elaborate on yours, we do keep a pretty regular communication with the Department of Corrections. We get regularly get the aging list, you know, to see how long someone has been in there in detention, and then if I find someone who's been in there that I believe that case should have been already resolved, whether it's through a plea agreement, through a trial, or you know what have you, I will contact the particular attorney and say what's the holdup on this case. We're blessed, I guess, because the court has their timelines, and that is really pushing us. The problem is that pushes us real fast. I feel like a luge rider coming down the icy slopes. So that moves it fast. So I've instructed all of my attorneys on very strict deadlines on when you're going to get your pleas out, when's that plea going to come off the table, we're just going to take a trial posture, because the whole idea is to try and move these cases along as quickly as possible. You know, I was a defense attorney for many years, and I just believe, you know, we need to hold people accountable for what they've done, but not be excessive. I mean, we need to be reasonable and just reach justice in the administration of our system here. And so we try and accomplish that in the prosecution division.
Can you,
If I may, real quickly, that age list also alerts us to the fact of whether or not a defense attorney has been sitting on a judgment.
Sure.
That's a broken record. You guys have heard that. You senators have heard that many times from us. We send the judgment out and we wait for them, the defense attorneys, for them to sign off on it. So we've been trying to work out procedures where we can bypass that and just get them out of lockup or the detention center and up to DOC.
right, and what we've heard this morning in the court's testimony was that there may be some games being played with regards to where these pretrial detainees are being housed. They're not supposed to be housed in Manila. They're supposed to be housed. So can you add a column to that as to the location of the individual? Because what we're saying is they're finding some people that are no longer in pretrial detention and should be incarcerated still down here.
There are a couple of tricks.
No, we want to eliminate those tricks.
I understand. From the defense counsel side of me, one of the things defense attorneys do, if they have someone who's going to be there and their client is going to be sentenced to less than a year, they will drag on the plea agreement as long as they can. And even after the change of plea is entered, they'll hold back on the judgment because the client, the defendant, prefers to stay down here in the Ganya. So that, and we're pushing to say, no, we need that judgment. Fortunately, there's a couple of judges now who are automatically issuing their judgments. And I commend Judge Cantu for that. He's the leader in that area. So that moves it much quicker, and then they get transferred to Manila. I have talked to the director of Department of Corrections before, where I've asked specifically, as you know, there's been a very recent public case where someone was, we believe, in the wrong facility. And so I've insisted. I said, I need to see where these people are housed, and they take the position that those are for security purposes. That information is not released outside of the prison confines. But I do try and track where are they located, and they won't tell me. I have asked. It's security.
National?
You know, maybe just for the territory, Your Honor, Mr. Chair.
Are you going to leak that information?
I'm trying to get it. They won't give it to me.
I know. That's what I mean. Do they expect you to leak the information?
I know. I said, I keep in mind, he goes, we're on the same team.
That's what I thought.
I provide you your business, but I don't understand.
Well, neither do I.
And I get along very well with the director, but some things he doesn't share with me.
I'm not certain how much more time you'd want to give Chief Prosecutor, but he didn't really talk about his staffing needs. If you wanted to,
Yeah.
One last comment, just for the humor of it.
I'm not laughing.
Oh, okay.
I stopped laughing about 35 minutes ago.
All right.
only the
Notice-
chairman
Go ahead,
can tell it.
Basil.
Only the chairman can
You're
tell
an
a joke.
upperclassman. I
Don't forget,
defer.
I am your upperclassman. I usually bring it to their attention that you notice the chief deputy is not here today. And it's because he's not here because I've assigned him to a criminal case that starts Monday.
Oh, okay.
But it's the big multiple homicide, and he starts that on Monday. I put everyone to work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure he appreciates that.
That shows you how much the Chief Prosecutor oversteps his bounds. I was about to tell you that we reach deep into our bench, and we have the Chief Deputy working on a trial right now. So thank you, Basil.
Don't look at that.
Thank you. And we also saw an increase in the travel budget that was requested. And I'm assuming that the travel budget is inclusive of the expert witnesses, off-island victims being returned for their trial, if they are in trial and so forth.
Trials, yes, everything, and that is generally something that we can't necessarily predict. As you know, with the trial coming next week, we've had to scrimp and save, and we've asked out of the goodness of some other government agencies, or governments, their assistance. So we try to do what we can to make sure that we can present the best case for the people. So travel is something that is an increase.
Yeah, and there was a statement made earlier that there's just a short gap between the FY 2013 executive request and the request of the Attorney General. And I think $7 million is a little bit more than a short gap. There is an increase, for the record and to be accurate, from the current appropriation to what the allocation is in the executive branch budget. There's a $255,000 increase, but that assumes that we don't increase we don't fund any of the additional requests that have been submitted by the Attorney General's office, that it's current status quo budget, and that's the assumption there. And that's where there is a short gap between the two. But from what is being requested in the FY 2015 budget and what the administration has allocated, there's a $7 million gap, a little over that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the earlier point was my point, and I was following off of the Chief Justice's line on the $7 million and what would that include. So I agree with you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Citizen Masi. There being no further questions, we would like to give you an opportunity to make some closing remarks.
Well, again, thank you very much for the time and the opportunity to speak on our budget. As you can see, that our office has been and continues to work hard with what it has. We are behind in what we need. We were behind as far as the resources that we have, and we sure would love to get up to a point where we are at least even with what we need. Funding these vacancies would help us, and I believe would help the government overall and people of Guam to get a better bang for their buck when it comes to services out of this office. So we appreciate time and attention.
Just one final question before I forget. The Attorney General has implemented the pay plan for its personnel.
Yes.
Okay. Now, this morning we had the Judiciary, and the Judiciary was requesting for authority to implement the pay plan based upon a review of the public law that was passed, which authorized the implementation of the pay plan because of a legal opinion issued by their in-house attorneys that the current statute, does not allow them to implement it under the current authorities that exist. Obviously, the Attorney General did an internal analysis of the same law and came up with a different conclusion, and that's why you implemented the pay plan?
We have, right? We did. So that's exactly. But like I said, what we are doing is we're implementing it based on DOA's placement of the staff, different staff, attorneys and staff.
those authorities existed in the statute that was passed?
Yes.
To implement the hay plan?
Well,
Because the judiciary came out with a contradictory opinion in-house.
Yes, yes, we've looked at that in-house. We haven't issued a formal opinion, but we don't necessarily agree with the judiciary. Now, that does not go to implementation. That goes to the authority to have this plan in place. I believe their opinion said there was no authority for the plan. Now, as to that, we may not agree with them. As to the implementation by DOA, the method, that's a whole
Right.
different thing. I have, of course, litigation attorneys, and now we're looking at a lot of attorney adverse actions at the CSC because of the
That was my,
implementation. So I get
Yeah.
That was
That's-
my
that's
other
why
question.
we're-
How many appeals,
I can't-
how many appeals have been filed?
How many appeals, how many?
at least 13 lawyers plus a number of, this is my division,
Okay.
at least 13 lawyers. 20?
So-
Okay, well, 13 of them are my people, and then staff also have filed grievances.
How many in the staff have filed grievances? Any other staff? Admin office?
Well, I had a chance to review, for some reason I was tasked with being on the grievance review committee. I don't have a specific number. I believe altogether there are about 8 staff that applied for the grievance procedure that have all since moved on to the Civil Service Commission, and I believe altogether 13, about 15 attorneys.
Okay. Thank you very much, and Sidus Masi, for your presentation this afternoon. That completes the hearing for today, June 6th. The next budget hearing will occur next week, Friday, on June 13, 2014, at which the committee will reconvene from its recess today at 9:30 a.m. to hear the budget request of the University of Guam, and at 2 p.m. to hear the budget request of the Guam Community College. There being no further business before the committee today, this committee will stand in recess